Welcome once again. This is what the fourth installment of the LEV Project's review of Underground. And so let me go ahead and get started. It was intriguing. This was very intriguing. Again, they built it as a suspense. They look like they did. So far you've seen a lot of accuracy in the research. Like I said, the last episode, the overseer, he tried to violate Rosalie. This is something that happened often. But like I was saying, there was a book called Cecilia the Slaves where this situation happened where she actually ends up killing the overseer. But in the story of Cecilia the Slave, she went to trial and was charged for murder concerning this. In this situation, Rosalie, the character, she runs away with Noah. She runs away because in self-defense, she looked like the opening scene is he's on the ground with the bottle in his neck and he's dying. But before he dies, he's able to gurgle out her name and say that it was her who did it. And so it was interesting to see the foreman, Cato, go in there and see dude laid out on the ground. And before he thought he was dead, he was going to choke him out. But when he realized he was dead, he had to play the role. So you're able to see the dynamics of people who are playing a role, so to say, and living in a space that they really don't want to be in. But for the sake of survival, they're forced to comply. And Cato is one of those individuals you don't know which direction he's going in. It's funny how also as soon as the overseer dies, everybody in this system is dispensable except for the master and his family. As soon as the overseer dies or is no longer of use, the master now approaches Cato, which is the one with the scar on his face, the foreman. He approaches him to give him the overseer job. And you could see that he had a little tinge of pride or haughtiness when he took that whip. It felt like, yeah, I'm empowered. It's kind of like today when people give people guns. They feel empowered now to go out and do these things that they're doing. That is something that I took note of as it went along. He went outside, but he wasn't really totally convinced, as we see it plays out, that he was still in his heart of hearts wanting to run away. And at first he was telling the story when they were in the field about the man who got the R on his face for running away. And those are some of the things that they used to do. And you can look those things up. They used to brand you when you ran away. First on one side, then on the other. I mean, hot iron brand, like you brand an animal. Brand them so that it will indicate to others that this was a runaway. And according to his narrative, what I picked up is him saying he couldn't take looking at it anymore, and so he burnt the R's off of his face. But that heart to run and that desire to run, even though he's playing this role among the master, is still there. So they think that everybody ran and left them. They think that Noah and Rosalie ran and left them, and the whole plan seems to be falling apart as you're looking at it, because it's not going. They had to make a quick move. And so Noah, he's committed to the cause. He wants to go back. This lead character with the plan, who had the map and the thing to freedom, he wants to go back. And so the rest of the gang joined them, all but two, which is the one who could write and read. So her husband is going to be in some danger when they find out that he really can't read and write. So his wife is the one who can read and write. She's missing, as well as Rosalie's brother. These two didn't get an opportunity. And I find it funny that the two ones who were left behind is the one who has woodwork knowledge. He's the carpenter. He's the one who knows how to put two things together, as well as the very valuable, the only one who can read of the whole group, the pastor's wife. And so for some reason, I feel like they're going to be able to, or they're going to look to try to go ahead and catch up with them. They're going to look to try to reunite with them in some way, because now when he realized that she actually wasn't caught, she gave herself up. And you're going to see where it is that she gave herself up to put space between the pursuers and her husband. And it's funny because in the beginning, she didn't want to run. She thought it was going to be too much of an arduous journey, too much on the child and not being able to make it. But once he convinced her, and he was now trying to convince her not to run, she was like, yo, forget that, we going. But she had to use herself as a martyr. I'm not going to front, that part had me for a minute, because mothers often did that. They often put themselves in harm's way to give their children an opportunity to run to freedom. Another notable thing, so that's my thought on it, that they're still going to possibly try to run those two together, and they maybe going to be looking for them because they're the ones with the certain skill sets that they necessarily need. So I don't think they're really going to be content to stay there. I think her mother got slapped back into reality, in the fact that she thought that if you play along with the system and make it as less troublesome as possible, it will work for you. But now she's feeling overwhelmed and guilty because her daughter ran away, and you could see that there's an issue between the son. The son has some indifference and some resentment towards his mother for whatever happened, whether it be he knows about her relationship with the master, whether it be whatever is going on, because that conversation was, okay, I don't want to talk about that. I want to talk about what is most important, which at this case is Rosalie. So we see the whole dynamic of secrecy, not talking about things, not having an opportunity to resolve things, and have to continue to push on. That still happens in this space and time. Another very interesting part or intriguing portion of this conversation or this particular episode was the abolitionist, who is visited by a disgruntled enslaved individual who remembers that he was a party in selling his wife. And after the whipping scene, actually before the whipping scene, he now assumes the position of the slave master, this enslaved person who's playing this enslaved person. He's assuming, and this is what you're seeing now on your screen, he's assuming the position of the slave master. And it's funny to see that that is juxtaposed against another enslaved individual who's thinking this is too harsh. If it was too harsh for them to do it to us, it's too harsh for us to do it to them. But this particular individual is like, no, you know what? I always wanted to do this, and so he's barking orders. He's telling them, serve me. I want to drink your wine. I want to drink your best food. And ultimately, I want to whip you. And I know that a lot of Europeans right now watching this have to feel some kind of way. I would really like to know if there's any Europeans who watch this, not for anything more than for understanding and sharing your thoughts as you saw how he made the wife of the man whip him. He said, no, I'm not going to whip him. She going to do it. And they're whipping him for confession. This was a normal practice. This is what the slaves would have endured for 400 plus years. This practice, or a little less than 400 years, of course, because, by the time, but still a whipping in another form, like, violence in the streets. But let me not get off topic. This whipping is what was used for confession. It was used for punishment. It was used just because. It was terrorism. And so they're turning the tables, but even the other enslaved man can't take to see it, which I found was just very, very interesting. Yet he pressed him and found out, yes, he was a lawyer on the case. Yes, he did distribute slaves according to the estate, and he settled that matter. And so although he did not personally hold slaves, because of the institution that many people, and oftentimes people say this, everybody profited. The lawyers profited, the printing shops profited, the boat makers profited, the fabric makers profited. Everybody was getting fat. Even if their hand was not directly connected to this, it was indirectly connected to it. And so I found it interesting at the end, his wife asked him, did you really do that? And he said, yes. And she turns around and says, then you deserve that whooping. That's kind of like balancing the scales in the mind of the people. To put that in there was like, wow, it's balancing the scales. In Roots, if you remember, they was almost gonna whip the dude. They tied him up and he was quibbling on the thing. They were almost gonna whip him in Roots, but I don't remember them whipping him in Roots. But in this particular instance, they actually ripped him, and it's some kind of retribution of just weights and balances of what has been done all the time. Very, very interesting. So like I said, this one, if you missed it, go back and check it out. They're on the run now, all except for two. Like I said, I think the two might catch up. The mother is now aware She may come over to the other side because now she's inside. One thing I want to say about Ernestine, that's her name, Rosalie's mother, is that she's really intuitive because she wanted to find out something about getting out of there. She suggested something through influence to the mistress, and because she was so caught up in her world of vanity, they just spouted out information that she was able to use to alert people. And we see that oftentimes in the narratives, that those who were in the house were able to obtain information that they can use to help their fellow slaves or enslaved individuals. So once again, it's very interesting. The writers did a good job so far on retelling the narrative and combining so many different things as it related to this space and time. And I just look forward to seeing what happens next week. Definitely take a look at it. Like I always say, not just for entertainment. See where it is that you can gain some understanding and glean some understanding into what you are seeing. So until next time, my name is Amuna Israel. This has been Underground Review number 4 for the LEV Project. And we'll see you on the other side. And if you're watching and listening to this, we do have the LEV Project. So go ahead and check out my channel, Amuna Yisrael, to see and be up to date. Subscribe so that you can see when more of the LEV Project is coming out. And we do the weekly readings. And you'll be able to read if you desire and continue this conversation. So until next time, 1.